So here we are for another video. I think I left you guys with a difficult oversized load I wasn't very fond of. Well, I was able to offload that. I had some difficulty offloading that. Some people may have seen the short video about that. I made that video because I always laugh at myself when I get angry, and we had a lot of laughs with that video. Anyway, had some difficulty getting that load off, but worked through it. It was good, and I had to go pick up a load in Danville, Virginia. So it was a couple 100-mile deadhead, and boy, I tell you what, I took off with an empty trailer, and beautiful. Oh my gosh, leaves changing, beautiful area. Virginia's so gorgeous. All the history. Had a blast, had a great time driving down there, and I looked on the map, and my load notes said you can park at the shipper, overnight at the shipper on the road. And I looked, and it's like in the middle of the woods. I'm like, well, you know, bathrooms and stuff. That's a backup plan, but I'll just stay at a Quick Trip. They had a nice Quick Trip 10 miles away, 20 or 30 spots. I've been trying to transition or use more of the small truck stops lately. A little bit easier for us, more parking later at night. Plus, it's kind of interesting. So I found a Quick Trip 10 miles away, stayed at the Quick Trip. It was just fine. And the next morning, got to the Danville wood place. I can't remember the name of it. And boy, I tell you what, it was kind of spooky woods and stuff there. So I was kind of glad I didn't stay on the road. And I think trucks went by for the pulp plant all night. You could stay there if you needed to. One of the nice perks of a flatbed. So I was picking up fiber board, like a fiber board that goes under roofs or something to help with insulation. And as the guys were loading me, they're rough, you know, banged against the trailer a couple of times. They're just shaking stuff and breaking the loads and having to go get new pallets. And I was worried about strapping that stuff because some things you can't strap very hard or it breaks it. And I felt like this fiberboard would probably do that. It wasn't like a plywood. It was like I don't know, like a soft, crumbly kind of fiberboard. And they got it all loaded. It's pretty tall, and we had to tarp it. And so one of the forklifts guys, he says, "Hey, you put the tarps out, roll it out behind your license plate." And I had no idea what he was doing. We were just out in the middle of the parking lot. I didn't see any tarp machine around like I've seen before. And I was like, okay, you know, so I rolled the back tarp out, and he shows up with this thing that goes onto a forklift. It's a big long arm, and you just put the tarp on it, and he just lifts it up, moves the forklift over the load, and the tarp's on. And I hadn't seen that yet, and boy, I tell you what, it was really easy. And strapping this load, I used every strap I had because I was worried about it moving. X straps and straps. It was pretty difficult to me to strap because I had to be careful with how tight I made it also. So it was nice after a hard strapping job to have the guy just throw the tarps on. And he threw the middle tarp on and the front tarp on. Bam, it was done. All we had to do was bungee it. That went pretty fast. So all in all, relatively simple, and it was heavy. I didn't know how heavy this stuff was going to be, and I ended up running at about 79,300 or 400 pounds with a full tank of fuel. So, you know, I'm in a couple of hills and some rolling mountains. Pretty slow getting down into South Carolina, but the load, I felt like it was shifting some, and they loaded it pretty far back on the trailer. That was interesting. When I went to scale, my drives were at 27,000. It's supposed to be at 34. I think I was at 22,000, and the load, my back tandem, was 19,500. It's not supposed to be that high. So the load was all the way to the front of the trailer, but there was so much of it on the back of the trailer. It was lifting the trailer back into the front of the truck and causing the weight to come off of my drives. And it was a terrible ride the whole trip. And the load would kind of wobble a little bit because you couldn't get on the straps. It was a long trip, 700-800 miles of just like, you know, a steering wheel like this, and always slow and careful. But we had to drop it off in Deerfield Beach, Florida. That's down right by Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. Well, in my mind, this whole trip, I was like, well, they're going to take this away from me because someone probably has home time. A lot of guys live in Florida. So I was like, well, we'll just head that way. I'll tell my mom. She lives down in that area. Like, I'll tell my mom we may be able to see her, we may not. And we headed out. We stayed in South Carolina, a really cool place in South Carolina. I stayed at another quick trip because the Loves right next to it was just full at 4 o'clock. But this quick trip was not full until 9 or 10. And we just got in there. We walked across the street to Love's, had a shower, went to Waffle House, Connie's first Waffle House treatment. And we had burgers and something else there. And it was fun. We had a nice quiet night there in the parking lot. I was glad I found that quick trip and tried it out just right across the street from the Loves. I got up at 3 o'clock the next morning because I was going to be on I-95 in Florida. And I-95, the whole East Coast is just crazy busy. So I wanted to be sure. I saw a group of truck stops, and it's kind of a dead zone for 100 miles. You got north of, from Fort Pierce is where I stopped. There's 4 or 5 places to stay there, and a lot of the rest areas around that area to stay at. And then you got 100 miles where there's nothing. It's a dead zone, like a desert, because there's always fancy houses and city and little neighborhoods and stuff. Then you got a few really busy ones down by Miami that are always full all the time for locals. It was a very difficult place to park. So I saw Fort Pierce had a lot of options, but I wanted to get there early. So we left at 3 in the morning, and I got to Fort Pierce at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which was exactly what I wanted to do. Got in, tons of parking at the Loves, of all places. There's 2 Loves and 2 Pilots, kind of right within 2 miles of each other. So got a great spot, chilled out, and Fort Pierce is about an hour away from my mom's house. And I had thought about planning for some home time, but I was like, well, you know what? Let's skip it. I'll just go see her Thursday night real fast, and maybe something comes up for the weekend. I can do it, visit again. Well, so I ran and got a rental car Thursday afternoon, went and saw my mom, had a great dinner, and hung out with my mom and my stepdad, and came back, turned that car in that morning, get up 4 or 5 o'clock, down to Deerfield Beach, north of Miami. And this place, this consignee, said they have on-street overnight parking also. Busy as heck in these areas, right? I mean, like, any overnight parking is great. I pull in, and there's no overnight parking. It's like you're half on the road, half off. There's trucks all over unloading. So I was so glad that I stayed 2 or 3 hours out and didn't choose that option. I don't know if it would have been an option. South Florida is very difficult to find parking and to do these loads. It's really tight places. So I get there, and it was packed. They're loading trucks, all these little trucks that are doing the real roofing jobs. They must have loaded 6 or 8 trucks, I counted, pulling out, pickup trucks and straight trucks, and they have 2 of their semis. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to drop off at 8. And, well, they got me in at 9:30. And to get in, I had to get another guy dropping off steel across the street to pull out of the way. So, I guess people are just used to this kind of stuff. So, the guy's moving back, I'm backing in. Some other guy's impatient, how long it's taking. And get backed in, get everything taken off, tarp, everything taken off. And they start unloading us, then they'd stop. And then they'd load a pickup truck. And they'd come back and unload 2 pallets. Then they'd stop and load one of their trucks. So they got finished at 11 o'clock in the morning. And so I had them sign the sheet that it was 11, so maybe I get an hour of pay for sitting around too long. Pretty nice guys, though. They didn't say anything about the load, and we just got finished, and I pulled out, sat in the grass, did all my paperwork, sat there for an hour and a half. Some people came in and had to move a couple of times. And I look on the map, and there is no place to stay. No place for 60 to 100 miles. I was like, you know what? If they deadhead me, it's probably going to be Ocala, Florida, like it has been the other time. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go. Plus, getting close to bathroom time and everything else. So we head 60 miles north to a rest area. Stopped there. It ended up being 80 miles, I think. It's 60 or 80 miles north to a rest area. And I was like, well, let's just go to the Loves and take showers and see what happens. So I went back to the same Loves, and pretty much as soon as I pulled into the Loves, I got a message. This is Friday afternoon at like 3:30 local time. My manager said, no loads, park it for the weekend if you haven't already done so. I was like, oh, perfect. I guessed really well there. I was like, you know what? We got the whole weekend. Let's go rent a car. Let's go see stuff and tour, go see my sister, go hang with my mom some more, go see the beach. So I called really fast, got me another car, jumped in an Uber on the way over there, got us a little Toyota Corolla, drove it back to Love's, jumped in the shower, and went out on the town down at Fort Pierce, down to the jetty, walked around to the ocean on the Fort Pierce jetty, went out to a really cool tiki bar and had dinner, had a good time, listened to some music, went back to the truck about 9 o'clock and had made plans to go visit my sister Saturday. My mom and stepdad were going over to see her Saturday. So we slept in late, got up, went over to Fort Myers beach area, hung out with my sister and the family, had a nice lunch, toured around, went down to Fort Myers beach, watched the sunset, had a good time there. Then we headed back to Fort Pierce, a couple hours away, slept in. Next day, got up, went down to my mom's house again, and went to the beach again. Had a lunch with my mom and my stepdad, and we got back on a Sunday. We turned the rental car in at 3:45, and as I was sitting there punching in for the Uber ride back to Love's, bam, Melton calls me and says, hey, can you help on a repower in Orlando? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm in like 20 minutes from the truck, but I guess I can, sure. Well, I guess a guy was trying to do home time, ran out of hours. Another guy was out of hours. I was the closest truck at 110 miles away to help grab this load and get it there. So I was like, okay, let's go. Threw everything in the truck, fired it up, headed up, meet this other driver for a repower up in Orlando. So all the information came through my little computer thing, and I typed a message to that truck and gave him my phone number, which I haven't done that yet, and it actually worked. So I'm rolling up there towards Orlando, and I'm glad I gave this guy my number because he calls me and he says, hey, where are you? My truck is actually at one of the turnpike rest areas, service plazas, not way west, 30, 40 miles off the route. Where I was supposed to be going. He was supposed to meet me there. He was already parked. He was already at the house, going to come meet me. I was like, well, heck, I'll just meet you on the service plaza. It's faster that way. So we saved, 30, 40 minutes. Get up in there to the service plaza. The little app was saying it was full because, it's pretty busy up in Orlando. But I pull in there thinking I'd find somewhere to squeeze in or something and swap trailers. And I found a spot, called this guy up, found his truck, dropped my trailer in that spot. He pulled over. We did the swap. He just left his stuff there. I went over and grabbed his trailer, and I took off about 30 miles south to get a little head start because I had a 180-mile run, 200-mile run down to real Miami this time. So 3 miles out of downtown Miami for this drop. And this was some more roofing material. So get going down to Miami. I was kind of excited. I was kind of hoping to see some, little Havana or something really cool or different. And I saw some ships on the Google Maps, and I was trying to figure out how to get in here on the maps, and it looked kind of like a pretty tough spot. But we get down in there, so much traffic, not a lot of really cool, interesting things, just like most other big cities. Made a turn I couldn't make, so people had to move equipment and move cars for me. It's just tight. It's just places trucks aren't supposed to be, a lot of those places. I found my drop spot. They came out and opened the gate after I called them and went in. It was really simple because it was one tarp and 8 pallets. So we folded, and a brand new tarp and brand new straps. So I got a brand new tarp out of this deal, 5 or 6 brand new straps. The load was off. I swear I was untarped, folded, everything put away, everything off the deck of the trailer in 30 minutes. And then I just asked the guy, I was like, hey, you know any parking, or can I sit here for a while? He goes, yeah, You can go down the road or you can stay right here. You're not bothering anybody. So I sat in this parking lot for about an hour, cleaned the truck a little bit, tried to fix one of the little lights, did a couple other things, sent all my messages in as soon as I could, and then bam, I got an order to get up to Ocala, Florida, to deadhead up that way. So okay then, so we just started heading north from there on the turnpike. I got a message for where I'm supposed to be, picking up in St. Augustine. So I'm pulled over now right outside of Orlando, going to pick up in St. Augustine. We're supposed to pick up aluminum or steel extrusions. That's going to be interesting because these have sharp edges and maybe tear my brand new tarp. I got to be really careful. So we'll show you some pictures of that and let you know how this goes. Well, it turned out to be an okay week. This is why I chose this job, was to go travel around a little bit, see family, see some things, see the country. And looks like we'll have a good start to this week. So I'll see you next time.